So one of the most important elements to playing the blues is knowing exactly which three chords are going to be found in any standard 12-bar blues. Probably about 80 to 90% of all blues tunes fall into this 12-bar blues category. And certainly if you go to, an open jam or you just want to jam with some friends or whatever, a 12-bar blues is going to be the way to go. So in order to find the three chords, all you need to do is know where the first one is. So you may remember we talked about having a seventh chord and being able to put it anywhere. So what we're going to do, in this case we're going to do a 12-bar blues in A. So that means I'm going to take my regular old seventh chord that I used before and I'm going to move it up to A here on the 5th fret. Now what's cool is that I know that the root note of my A chord is here at the 5th fret of the 6th string. It does not matter which key I choose, meaning which fret on the 6th string I choose. The 4 chord, which is the next chord, is always going to be found right above it on the 5th string. Now what do I mean by the 4 chord? It's very simple. If I'm doing a blues in A, that means I am in the key of A, and an A scale contains A, B, C sharp, D, and E. Those are the first 5 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if I play a chord off the first note, we call it the 1 chord. If I play a chord off of the second note, we call it a 2 chord. And a chord off the 3rd note is a 3 chord, and a chord off the 4th note is the 4 chord. Okay? So it's not brain surgery. It's a 7th chord built off the 1st note, there's the 1 chord. A 7th chord built off the 4th note is the 4 chord. And it's always the case that the 4 chord will sit on the string right above the 1 chord. And what's also nice is that the 5 chord will always be 1 whole step or 2 frets up from the 4 chord. So no matter what key I choose, I could choose A or I could choose F sharp, I'm still going to have 1, 4, and 5. If I choose B, 1, 4, 5, 4, 1. Always. Okay? Now you remember we talked about the concept of a voicing, which is just a different way to play the same chord. We're going to play our A7 the same way we played our G7 in the last example, but what I want to do is I want to show you a different voicing for the D7. And it looks like this. It's kind of a baseball bat looking chord, but it's actually very, very common in blues and it's a great sound. There's the way we used to do it. And it's not that you can't use that. They're both perfectly good. Sometimes you'll like this one, and sometimes you'll like this one. There's not a right or a wrong answer. I just want to give you as many options as possible. So we're going to use this shape for both our 4 and our 5 chord. Okay? So now we're going to have 1, 4, and 5. Those are the 3 chords. Now the rhythm we're going to use here is a little bit different. And I'm showing you a lot of different rhythms because these are what you might commonly call a comping pattern. And a comping pattern, well, first of all, comping is short for accompanying, which is really hard to say. So if you're basically playing rhythm, then you're comping. If somebody else is taking a solo or there's a singer and you're playing a rhythm behind them while they're doing their thing, you're comping. So that little pattern we had in the last example was a great pattern. And you notice there was a lot of space in it. I didn't play all the time. We very rarely do this. It kind of gets on everybody's nerves, to tell you the truth. So we usually keep things pretty simple. So this example, my comping pattern is going to be a pair of 8th notes only on beats 2 and 4. So if I count it out, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And notice that on beats 1 and 3, where I'm not playing, I go ahead and do that rest. I get my palm against the strings and I relax my left hand. Not to the point that it comes off the strings, just relax it. Okay? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and I do the same thing with my D7 and my E7. 1, 2, 3, 4. you might notice my thumb up on the top here. It's actually, because it's convenient on this chord, it's reaching around to mute out the 6th string in the event that I accidentally strum it. I call this the rock star thumb actually to all my students, because it's one of those things where when you're up on stage and you're really strumming, it's really hard to be careful. So when you're playing rock star, you tend to want to mute out unnecessary strings so that you don't have to be careful. You can go ahead and strum and get into it a little bit. So in this case, my thumb is reaching around, kind of muting out that 6th string for me. The first string, I don't want either. It works out that my first finger happens to just touch that string. It's pretty easy to mute that out. I don't think you'll have a problem with it. My first finger up here just naturally touches that. And so that's why this is kind of a baseball bat grip looking chord. And a lot of times you'll see this, you know, Hendrix was famous for reaching around and playing notes with his thumb. And you'll see guys often, you know, put their thumbs up over the top, but usually it's a muting thing. They're usually not playing a note. Okay, so now that we've got that, let's talk about actually playing this tune. So we have, again, the A7, the D7, and the E7, and the rhythm pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that. Now the other little twist we're going to put into this is we're going to do what's called a quick change blues. Normally, our first 4 bars are the 1 chord. That's the standard 12-bar blues formula. The first 4 bars are the 1 chord. Then the next 2 bars, 5 and 6, are the 4 chord. The next 2 bars, 7 and 8, are back to the 1 chord. Bar 9 is the 5 chord. Bar 10 is the 4 chord. Bar 11 is the 1 chord. And typically bar 12 is the 5 chord. It can be either 1 or 5. Either, it's fine. What we're going to do is we're going to create what's called a quick change. And this is actually a common term. You could use this on a jam. If somebody said it's a blues in C with a quick change, everybody should know what that means. And what that means is the second bar, instead of staying on the 1 chord, we're going to go from, on bar 1 we'll be on the 1 chord, but on 2 we go to the 4 chord, and on 3 back to the 1 chord to finish out bars 3 and 4. Okay? It's just a cool little hiccup, if you will. It's commonly called a quick change blues. Okay? So let's play along with the slow jam track example on this one, and you'll see how it all gets put together.